Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
We made this.
All right, and 5.
Black alert.
4,
Black alert.
we are
Black
Starfleet
alert.
is back. Part 2 of Season 4 has kicked off with Episode 8, All In. My name is Mike Slamer, and with me is my co-host from the Outer Rim, Ian Buckley. Ian, welcome back to the Bridge of Discovery. How have you been over the break?
My away mission was successful. Thanks for asking.
Excellent, excellent. Is it classified still, or can we talk about it?
Oh, just a lot of mundanities, a lot of nose to the grindstone stuff. Nothing exciting.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, over the past couple weeks, there's been tons of theories blown out, from the first part of Season 4. And I don't know, it feels like the DMA could still be anything. It feels like this episode gave us an answer, but I don't buy the answer quite yet.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I really like this particular mystery. I think I've said it a couple of times, and I
Mhm.
continue to feel this way, that I'm finding the mystery surrounding the DMA and the civilization responsible for it more compelling than the burn, for example, was last
Sure.
season. Especially at like this point in the season, I'm still more invested in this mystery. And I love. We'll get to it when we talk to the scene, but I love the ideas that they're throwing out there of what it could be. I am relatively ready to take it on face value, I think, because I think the face value idea that they throw out there is a pretty cool one.
Mm-hmm.
But I hear what you're saying. I think the plot, the mystery, has taken a couple of twists and turns. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were in for another couple of those.
Yeah. It's Stamets, Admiral Vance, President Rilak, Captain Burnham. They're all operating on certain assumptions, and they've got their hypothesis. And now we need to go find the proof, the evidence, and that's kind of where this episode takes us. This, believe it or not, is episode 50. This is the 50th episode of Discovery overall.
Huh.
It's kind of crazy to think that, 20 years ago, 50 episodes would be 2 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. We'd be 2 seasons into DS9 by now. Yep.
Exactly. The amount of character work that gets done over the course of, early 90s Trek to deliver on week after week after week for 24, 26 weeks or what have you, even when they do those spring breaks or the sweeps or whatever they call them. I don't know. But it's crazy to think about how much character work can get done in those types of episodes when you span them out. And here, Ian, we have been asking for some character work. This episode delivers in spades. and I want to know your thoughts. Who else on the bridge crew is holding back some secret badassery? Who do you
W-
think?
Well, I first, just to go back a second to your point about the length of the seasons, you're right, and I think that in those longer seasons, you had, even in episodes that we would maybe look back on and call them filler episodes, or maybe even at the time we were kind of like, well, this week's episode isn't is kind of a dud. There were always plenty of those,
Sure.
even though those just gave the audience more opportunities to get to know these characters, because even within those dud episodes, you have the opportunity to spend time with characters who were sometimes progressing their own personal stories in interesting ways, even when the episode's overall story wasn't very interesting. And just having more episodes to do that, you just the audience who's been watching week after week, even those kind of filler episodes where the plot of that episode isn't very memorable, they might remember this great scene
Right.
between Data and Geordi in Data's quarters, and otherwise the episode doesn't register, but they remember that scene, they remember that moment between those characters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still gonna skip over all of the Worf and Alexander episodes, but yeah,
Yeah, there
they
aren't
do
any good
serve.
ones in there.
They do serve to fill out the character of Worf to make him something other than fire phasers.
Yeah, in theory, that is true. That is true. And yeah, to go back to your point about this week's episode, like, I loved how much more we got of Lieutenant Commander. I had forgotten about her promotion. Owo,
Mm.
it
Oh wow.
feels like the sort of, oh wow, feels like the sort of thing we've been wanting since season one. Have the characters go on away missions and get more of this bridge crew involved. And I know it's not a coincidence that this episode is pretty light on some of the other members of the supporting cast, and like Tilly and Gray are still off shit, so
Hmm.
there's more bandwidth within the show to dedicate to a character like Owo. I just hope they do more of this.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I saw a great comment on Reddit about our bridge crew, right? And many people, you and I included, have been asking repeatedly, give us more of the bridge crew. Tell us about these characters. And this is exactly what we want. It's not a character just saying, oh, here's a couple sentences about my backstory on Earth, or, here's a quick little line of dialogue about how, Starfleet rescued me when I was a kid. So now I want to return the favor. It's not just a line of dialogue, it shows us. And Owo proves herself to be so useful and so competent, other than just being a fixture on the bridge. And man, it really pays off in spades.
Yeah, she's able to have, and this can't be overstated. She has really substantial standout moments with meaningful connections being made between Burnham, between Book, and between Tarka in this episode.
Yes.
Like, she gets a lot to do, and all of it is interesting. All of it is compelling to watch, and it, again, it is a running theme with Discovery when it does these things that we've been wanting the show to do and does it well. It feels good, but it also does feel a little frustrating. Like, why did it take until halfway through the fourth season? Why did it take until the 50th episode of the show to find this kind of balance that I think a lot of us have been expecting from the show? And I realize that it's not fair necessarily for us to bring the weight of all of our expectations as fans to the show. Everyone wants something different out of it. I get that. But this is something that we've been talking about ever since the show started.
You can't really fault the fans, though. I mean, yeah, we've all been complaining, and I love your statement about, maybe it's not fair bringing the weight of our expectations, and that's beautifully said. At the same time, we are the fans. We are the ones who are coming back week after week after week. and we're asking for certain things, and we're constantly coming back to the same points over and over and over again. So at what point does the show start to lose its audience because it's not delivering? And I think, over the course of this season, the showrunner, Michelle Paradise, she's been consistent in this show. And I think that she's been very consistent in delivering on things that fans have been asking for. Not all of it right up front, right out of the gate, but it's been starting to trickle in more and more. So I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I am too. And I think that, it's the kind of thing where if
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
if we as fans are demanding a certain thing, especially once we've gotten this far into the show, it's because it's something that feels off about the show. Like it's not. It's because it does feel like there's something missing. There's some dynamic that we're missing
Mhm.
as Trek fans that we're expecting to get out of the show. And I really do sympathize with the show's creative team wanting to subvert fan expectations,
Mhm.
but there's got to be something interesting done when you subvert those expectations. And I think some of the decisions that they made, going back to seasons 1 and 2 even, are now kind of being slowly unwoven so that they can kind of course correct some of this stuff that I
Mm,
think fans were rubbing up against, having some friction watching this show.
sure.
I think you and I have expressed that we appreciate Michael's sort of general attitude and demeanor and interaction with her superiors in this season far more than what we got in the previous three. At least I feel that way. And I think likewise, we're getting a little bit more than just a superficial level of development on some of these bridge characters. They're getting real substantial moments to shine. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that I really hope the creative team is planning to do more of.
Yeah, definitely. Ian, I love that we dove right into this. Normally, we're a little bit more formulaic, but I'm loving this conversation. So, All In, written by Sean Cochran. He is a writer inside the Star Trek Discovery writing room. He has written a few of the previous episodes and previous seasons, directed by Christopher J. Byrne and Jen McGowan, also returning directors. So they know the cast, they know the crew, they know the characters that they are presenting to us on screen. They have a firm grasp of Star Trek Discovery, and it shows. This is a well-rounded episode. I will say, overall impression for me, that it was a little bit tonally all over the place. You got some smarminess going on inside of a casino. You've got a hustle scene. There's a little bit of a heist thing happening. And there's also the very real threat of the DMA and Species 10C. But Burnham is kind of flippantly trying to win back her boyfriend a little bit. And that's a little strange. And then they have this poker scene. So it just feels like tonally they didn't know exactly where to stick this episode, so it just gets a little bit of everything, and it doesn't quite work across the board. So for that reason, I'm actually giving this a 6 out of 10.
Funny, you and I have kind of arrived in the same place. I feel like this episode was fine. It was okay. I'd give it a solid 6. I certainly didn't like dislike it or have a bad time with it, but there were some standout elements. There were some elements that
Yes.
I really liked that will stick with me, even if this episode as a whole felt like it didn't really sing to me.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It didn't sing. It didn't sing. It had a great melody. I'll give it that.
Yeah, there were just a lot of there were some compelling components that just never quite gelled into a cohesive whole. And like you said, some of the tonal stuff, the poker scene in particular, I struggled with. I felt like the episode struggled with that scene, frankly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I got some listener mail here, a DM from a fan on Instagram, longtime listener, Siptacular, at Siptacular. She says, while the main plotline of the season fell flat in this episode, I truly enjoyed the heist movie vibe at the casino. Between, oh wow, Owosekun hustling the nameless bad guys by kicking that guy's ass, Michael with her unexpected chatter throughout the poker game, to the most fun, Haas with his nonsensical but delightful sayings, I wish the actual plot was better. I'm not really invested in this story, especially how contrived it seems by setting everything up for Book and Tarka to sit and wait for the Federation to catch up to them. We're setting up a showdown where Michael and or Book has to choose a side, and I'm not looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I think I certainly resonate with a lot of that. I think for me, I liked basically, as we alluded to earlier, everything to do with Owosekun, from the hustle fight to her individual one-on-one moments that she got with Burnham, Book, and Tarka. All
Mm,
of the stuff to do with Owosekun in this episode worked really well for me. It's just I don't know that the episode as a whole did the same.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, what say you to unpacking this thing?
Yeah, let's do it. Take
All
us away.
right, all right. So I love the opening sequence here. That this open teaser here. You've got Fleet Admiral Vance, Starfleet HQ. You've got all the ships like hanging out. They're getting ready to depart. All available ships. Find Tarka. Find Booker. We have to get our hands back on the Spore Drive prototype that Tarka stole. And there's this really cool scene where Vance, played by Oded Fair, brilliant. He's stomping around Starfleet HQ. He's pissed. He is ready. He's all phasers set to kill, right? And a lieutenant reports that 2 authorizations were in fact granted by Tarka and by Admiral Vance himself. And the admiral is completely taken aback. He's like, "Hold on a second. Did I just get hoodwinked?" Right?
Right.
So then you've got the Federation president, who happens to be Cardassian, human, Bajoran hybrid species. President Rilak approaches, and obviously, listen. If your boss hears that someone under your purview, your responsibility, has taken off with a special prototype, yeah, they're not going to be happy about that. So there's a big come to Jesus moment here where Admiral Vance and Captain Burnham are dragged in front of the president. Not dragged, but you know what I mean, right? And hey, did you guys see this coming? Did you think this was going to happen? How come it happened? Why did we not prevent it? Explain yourselves. And I felt this was a great way to open this episode because it picks up right where we left off, which is a good thing. And it kind of brings you right to the forefront of the responsibility and the consequences therein.
Yeah, I continue to really like the dynamic that Rillick is bringing the to the table here. I continue to really enjoy her character. I like the position that she's putting Vance in, where Vance is no longer the sort of top of the food chain here. He can operate in a little bit more of a gray area now,
Mm,
with kind of work with Michael on some of the stuff, give her a little bit of flexibility. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, I buy into this kind of relationship with Vance and the president, this dynamic. Like,
yeah.
this feels like the kind of way to get Burnham on a mission where she has a mission, she accomplishes her goal, she accomplishes what she sets out to do, but also she's given a little bit of wiggle room to operate in the margins, in the gray area. I feel like that's the kind of sweet spot in terms of the command structure dynamic for this particular show.
Yeah, it works really well also setting the stage for the entire episode. It gives everybody, a little bit of a reminder not only of what just happened, just in case you missed the previously on Star Trek moment, but also it sets up the mission and it gives us a reason to be a little bit cautious, since we're following Captain Burnham, be like, okay, how is she going to handle this? Rillick doesn't want Booker to run after. Sorry, Rillick does not want Captain Burnham to run after Booker because of their relationship. And as Rillick points out, like, hey, listen, we just talked about getting information on species 10C and making first contact, and you were instrumental in making that happen. That is your mission. We can handle this. You go handle that.
Yeah, right. I like the delegation of responsibility there. It did feel a little bit like I understand the role, I think, generally that Saru is playing on the ship, but he's a captain too. Like he could go on a mission, he could go on assignment somewhere. Like I wouldn't mind seeing them kind of shake things up in terms of the personnel that are on the ship. It feels like a lot of people are on the ship. That's great. We could shake things up a little bit more, spread out some of these characters, give them a little bit more to do elsewhere. It does feel like there are some characters who are not necessarily being fully utilized week to week. That's great, but if it could feel, at least to the audience, like they were being utilized in the service of the overall plot of the story of the show, I think that would be fun.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, during that scene, I legitimately thought, like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna take Discovery from Burnham? Because then she'll just, she'll lose her mind, and then we're gonna return to like a season 1, season 2 style Burnham where she's going against
Yeah.
everything that the Federation wants.
I'm utterly uninterested in full rebellion Burnham again.
Hundred
Like
percent,
do not
100%.
do not ever want to see that mode again.
Yep.
We've been down that road a few times. I like this sort of happy medium that she's finding here. It feels like she's more settled. It gives us a time to focus on this conflict that she has with Book in this season, which now, because they've given us a season and a half of good chemistry between these two characters, we as an audience feel the weight of this conflict that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, really well said. And it shows that Burnham has indeed achieved that maturity and that growth into the captaincy that, she has taken on. It's not just, it's not lip service that she's captain. She's acting as a captain should, like you see her turn on the heel when she gets an order from Admiral Vance, like, yes, I agree with the president. That's an order, go do your mission, right? She turns on the heel, very pissed off, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a good thing to see. It is, again, one of those things that, while I enjoy it now, it is a little frustrating to wonder why this isn't a dynamic they couldn't have found a little bit sooner, when she
Mm,
was supposedly showing that she was ready to be a captain. Now that she actually has all of this power as the commander in chief of a starship, she theoretically has this ability to operate in a little bit more of a gray area, kind of do her own thing a little bit. Now she's showing a little bit of appropriate restraint. but when she was theoretically trying to prove herself worthy of that chair, that was when we were seeing a lot of her worst impulses come out. It's a little bit frustrating to see her shine now, but I'm happy that it's happening, so I'm not really going to complain too much.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. But, we get this beautiful little loophole thrown at us where Admiral Vance visits her ready room on the Discovery and says, "Hey, here's my backstory about Tarka. Here's why I'm pretty upset and pissed off. I still believe that he could be the right way to go, and maybe he is right, but maybe he's not." And anyway, Vance basically implies almost outright to Captain Burnham, "Hey, you're a creative officer. You're one of the most adept officers in service right now. So, find a way to stop Booker and Tarka within the mission parameters. That's also in order." What did you think about this?
Like I said, I like this sort of. It feels like Vance is now freer to operate. He has more flexibility here, and he's flexing that muscle. And he's motivated by being reunited with his family. He's now in a different. He's been in a different mindset than we saw him when we met him in season 3. Now for a while, he's been in this sort of post burn, now post dilithium
Right.
coming back into the picture. The Federation has been growing. He's starting to breathe a little bit more easily and relax, and he doesn't want to go backwards. Like, I believed him. I believe that motivation coming from him. So I get that he's maybe feeling a little bit more like he's willing to operate in this gray area a little bit, because it's worth it to avoid going back to where they were.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Huddling in the dark, afraid.
Huddling in the dark, afraid. So let's pivot for a moment, because simultaneously while this is happening, I found it interesting, by the way, that most of the A and the B plot are pretty much the same. We wind up in the same place. It's just that the acts 1, 2, and 3 of this episode definitely take place in different areas. So rather than following the plot, we'll just follow the acts, because I feel like that may make a little bit more sense as we talk about it. So, with that said, Booker and Tarka are flying away, right? And they have this conversation on Booker's ship. And here's what I find most interesting in this scene as they're taking off, right? Booker, his comm channel is going off like crazy. Burnham is trying to get in touch with him. Hey, come back. He's ignoring the calls. They're on the Federation most wanted list. And what's interesting to me is that Tarka asks Booker how it felt using the spore drive, and Booker kind of like blows him off. He's like, it works, and if it stops the DMA, that's all that matters. And the look on Tarka's face, I want to know if you felt this too. Tarka definitely lives on that hey, look at me, I'm super smart, I'm brilliant. And call me that, call me brilliant, call me smart, call me a genius. Like, he needs to have his ego stoked. And
Oh
when
yeah,
Booker doesn't, you can kind of see the crack in the facade there.
yeah. He deflates a bit.
Yeah. And that plays up a little bit later when Owo and Tarka start talking together. I found that really interesting.
Yeah,
Um, But here we
yeah.
have, isolinium. We have to secure the isolinium. And luckily, Booker does know of a seller who would be unknown to Starfleet, except it will cost them a lot of money. So Tarka, of course, he's very rich, he's clever, he's even if he's not rich, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he's gonna find a way to get all the latinum they need. So this kind of puts us on our path here, where Booker and Tarka are off to find isolinium, and you've got Admiral Vance telling Burnham, "Hey, find them within mission parameters."
Yeah, and in terms of the plot of this episode, this is one of the things that I, in retrospect, kind of raised an eyebrow at, because Book's logic is that, well, the Federation wouldn't look for us there, but once we learned that he and Michael were like best buddies with the guy that runs this place, it seems like the last place in the world he should be going, unless running into Michael was what he was kind of sort of hoping would happen, which
Ah,
maybe is part of his motivation. He certainly doesn't say it out loud, but
you
maybe
think so?
that was under the surface there. I mean, maybe because it just doesn't, because he knows that she knows about it. So for him to say, well, it's off the Federation's radar is one thing, but it's not just the Federation looking for him, it's Michael, and he knows very well that she knows Haas very well.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, good point. Good point. That's pretty reasonable. I hadn't really considered that, but it does make sense now in retrospect that maybe perhaps Booker was indeed hoping that Michael would pick up on that. They both know that, in their past as couriers, that they've had to deal with less than savory individuals out there, and why wouldn't their paths cross again?
Exactly.
So, all right, we have a big moment here with Saru and Stamets and Zora. And I want to ask you, Ian, Michael calls out Zora or I'm sorry, no, but Michael, Captain Burnham, all these names. Captain Burnham tells Stamets, to work on pulling out these data points to figure out species 10C, where can we find more information about them, how can we get them. And Zora just kind of pipes up and says, oh, hey, I can do that for you, Stamets, and let me take care of that.
Yeah, just the raw processing power of a computer can crunch these numbers faster than you, or at least it would be a more efficient use of the resources available.
Yeah. And, Michael's like, I'm sorry, what? Okay. And I do have to wonder, has Michael really had an opportunity to sit and process the information about Zora? Because in the last episode, it was all kind of happening so fast where we just accept now that Zora is a part of the crew. She's a Starfleet specialist, right? Consultant. Do we?
I don't remember where they landed on
Okay.
it now.
But, uh, but she's a part of the crew now, which is awesome.
Yeah,
And having, like you said, the raw processing power of the computer, being able to pull all those data points. I just love how Zora's like, oh, Stamets, this is kind of beneath you, don't you think? Let me handle it. I got you. No problem. Pulls it out, and then boom. Here is an entity. Zora is able to pulls out an entity known as the Stilf using sphere data. The Stilf is a warp-capable civilization just inside the galactic barrier, which happens to be only a paltry 30 light years from the coordinates of where supposedly 10C is. They don't have any direct diplomatic relations with this species, the Stilf, but the Orions have. So rather than go to the Orions for information, Burnham thinks that she may know somebody who has information, and so they need to go on an away mission, which just so happens to be the exact place that Booker is going to. Boom, there you go. How crazy is that?
yeah. I enjoyed that scene a lot. I like that Stamets is getting used to this new workplace dynamic that's emerging with Zora there. It was a little bit hard to read his reaction to that at the very end of that scene, whether he was appreciative or whether he was maybe still trying to figure out how he felt about having Zora chime in and take some of the work off of his hands. He is a guy who likes to be in control of things. So,
Mm.
especially when it comes to like data and research and his little area of responsibility is getting smaller when more gets delegated to others. So he may be having some mixed feelings about that, but yeah, I'm very excited to see those dynamics continue to develop as the show goes on.
Yeah, agreed. I would definitely echo your sentiments about maybe Stamets being a little bit concerned that maybe his job is being taken away, but we know that's not the case. I think Stamets may be surprised at how helpful Zora may be, considering he was kind of in the camp of, hey, no, let's delete her program, you know?
Yeah. Well,
So
he's the resident Tarka. He's the guy who is the smartest, who knows all the things, and so he may be feeling a little bit threatened by a
sure.
sentient computer with this like sphere data inside it, who he just can never compete with ever.
Okay, that's a lovely juxtaposition to Stamets' partner, Culber, who, when he's frustrated, just shouts, no, stop it.
At the robot. Yeah. I
That
mean,
was
if I
great,
if I
though.
had a Roomba doing things I didn't want it to do, I'd yell at it too.
What a fun scene. You got Culber stress cleaning their quarters together and just like kind of having like a personal little anxiety meltdown, which we can all relate to on some level. I've definitely stress cleaned a little bit, or like gotten really angry and just like decided to fold laundry as a way to calm myself down.
Yeah, I love that scene between the two of them. I mean, I consistently like all the work that Wilson Cruz is doing with Culber. Well, in the series as a whole, but also this season, I liked the formal taking on of this counselor, this sort of ship's counselor role that we really haven't seen a character, do since Next Gen. And even then, the kind of the therapy role that she played on the ship was really a very very minor part of that show. They're really
Right.
trying to make the exploration of these mental health issues an important theme of this series, and I really appreciate that. And I like the representation of the caregiver who is just feeling like they are failing their duty of care for all of these people, because he's such an empathetic person. He's got all of this excess, not excess, but he's just got all this empathy to spare. He's got all this care to give to all the people around him, and this family that he's formed on this ship. And yeah, it's a hard thing when you're an empathetic person like that. It is really hard to feel like you could have done more for someone and you didn't.
That's it's a frustrating point to be in for somebody who's going through something as powerful as that. And a little bit of survivor's guilt as well, considering his experiences from the mycelial network. And why him? He said that to Kovich earlier in the season. Why me? Why do I get to live? And that's powerful too. People struggle every day, wondering why me, why me, why now, why them, why do I have to be here? So the exploration of that, I hope that Discovery, the writers do have a little bit of a track record sometimes of sweeping things under the rug for the sake of runtime, or for the sake of the plot, or for the sake of a different character. And I don't want that to happen to Culber, because I think that the story that he has is definitely important to share and to at least explore a little bit more. And, just like Owo got a big moment in the sun with this episode, I hope that Culber gets his big moment in the sun. He's definitely had some great scenes. He's had some great dialogue, between Kovich himself, him and Stamets, him and Michael, even. Like there are great things happening there, and Wilson Cruz is playing it real.
Absolutely. Appreciate his character whenever he appears on screen. And it is a shame that he's not given that much to do this week, but I appreciate that the show checks in with him and checks on
Yeah.
the progression of his story, because this is something that they have been, this is a thread that they've been pulling at for a few episodes now, and I'm glad that they're not dropping it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I will say though, and I don't know, maybe it was just the scene, the way it was directed, maybe it's the way it was written, or the way that Anthony Rapp kind of interpreted it. But I'll be honest with you, Ian. I think that the duo there, Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp, Wilson Cruz was outperforming by miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since season 2, the character of Stamets has gotten mellower, right? Especially with the
Definitely.
introduction of Adira and Gray. And I understand like the idea of like, I need to protect my family. I'm here for my family now. I came through, at the end of season 2, if you recall, Stamets was not going to remain on the Discovery. He decided to take an education position, I believe, or a Starfleet Academy position, something of that like. So he wasn't going to stay on Discovery, and him and Culber were going to go their separate ways. But then decided to stay. Here we are in the future. They had no idea that all this stuff was going to happen. He left his family behind. He has a newfound family, which is a massive theme of this show, and it works really well. However, he's gotten a little bit mellower, and as a character, I don't know that I love it.
You wish that he retained that kind of rough edge.
Yeah, I mean, a little smoother perhaps, it doesn't have to be that sharp, grating, prick that he was in season 1.
Yeah, he was
But
rough at first. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely too far. But, he he seemed to have lost that spark that made him so fun to see interact with other members of the crew.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, he does seem like he's lost a little bit of an edge. Maybe that's something that they can actually explore explicitly in the show to some extent. I don't really know whether they will, but
Yeah.
I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, it would be nice if he had a little bit more of the. I mean, he may be a character who's feeling a little bit of insecurity for for the first time in recent memory. He
Mm,
encountered Tarka, who he was pretty sure he would know better than and was smarter than, and then he met Tarka and was humbled by the
yeah.
experience, and now he had this response to Zora's emergence, and now that she has become a member of the crew and can do these things that maybe previously only he alone could have done, yeah, he could be feeling a little insecure.
Yeah, yeah. It would definitely run true to his character that he would do that. But what I would expect more of like that emotional outburst from him as a result of that insecurity. And if definitely people grow, they mature, they're able to get past certain things. Maybe this is just him showing that growth, showing that maturity, and being able to get past his insecurities. But I would imagine that he would be a little bit more like, hey, I don't really like where I'm at right now, and I'm going to express that. So anyway, I'm interested to see where Stamets goes, and I hope that he gets a little bit more characterization to show us like where he is and what his journey is so far, rather than just being a little bit of a shoulder to cry on for Culber, which Culber certainly needs. Don't get me wrong, he needs his own place to vent too, but that's the interesting thing about these shows.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Especially in the streaming era where you have to have all eyes on the action, right? And sometimes those softer, sensitive moments that you want, you don't get.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have another great character dynamic as Burnham takes Owosekun on the shuttle. And the shuttle sequence, it was a beautiful Passover, by the way. This flight sequence of the shuttle going to the planet where
The
Booker
barge.
Target
Yeah, I
barge,
forget. I
yes.
forget what it's called.
The Karma barge.
Karma barge. That's right.
Yeah, so they're going to meet with this contact that Captain Burnham has, and it's outside Federation territory. They don't like Federation people there. They're not welcome, so they have to take a shuttle. And that whole sequence where we fly over the ocean water and you get this big giant like ocean dragon coming out of the water. Yo, that was cool. That was super cool.
Oh yeah, I love the, reminiscent a little bit of the what was it, the Telosians, the ones with the
Yes.
black hole illusion around their planet,
Yes.
in season 2. Yeah, reminiscent of that trick.
Yeah, they had a like a hollow emitter on the Karma barge itself to kind of ward off, I suppose, anyone who may think that it's something else. But yeah, the shuttle comes into the barge, and you've got on the shuttle itself, you've got this great moment with Captain Burnham and Lieutenant Commander Owosekun, and it's a little bit of a hey, I hear you, I feel you. They share a great tender moment.
Yeah, I like that they had the, like Owo was almost sort of expecting, I don't know, like an additional dressing down when
Mm.
Burnham mentioned that, and what she was doing was just to say, like, no, like, I get it. Like, if anyone on this entire crew can understand what it's like to feel like you want to do something and your
But you can't.
superior is telling you that you can't, it's me. And God bless Owosekun for not pointing out the many, 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 many times Burnham didn't let that stop her.
Yeah, right.
But
Oh man.
yeah, no, it was. I liked that they had, again, is another, like, Owo had a lot of really meaningful one-on-one connections that she had with other characters in this episode. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it worked out really well. And OO is of course, I mean, everyone in Starfleet with a Starfleet uniform is of course going to be very adept and clever and be able to pick up on things, right? But, OO knows, she's and when she straight up asks, she's like, you can verify stellar charts yourself. So why am I here? And I thought that was just like that one key line clued me in that okay, we're gonna get quite a bit of OO this episode. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited, and like I said earlier, I really hope that this is a template that they use for some of these other bridge crew members going forward, where we have more of an opportunity to learn about them.
Yeah, yeah. When we land on the Karma Barge here, we are in uniform, but there's no comm badges, there's no weapons. It's just Michael and Joanne, and
Yeah, I
they
thought that
are.
was an interesting choice. I mean, Star Trek doesn't always do that, but they certainly have done that plenty of times where characters have gone to a place that was outside of Federation territory
Mm.
and or jurisdiction, and said, well, let's just play it cool, let's play dress up a little bit, let's dress cash.
Yeah.
And instead of walking into this place all casual Friday, it was pretty formal, minus, like you said, the sort of phasers and comm badges.
Yeah. I mean, they're telegraphing who they are to everybody
That's
when they
true,
walk
and
in.
maybe that
So,
was by design. Like maybe that was something that Burnham wanted to do, so that on some level, more people get used to seeing Starfleet uniforms around again.
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. I loved how, they're walking around. You've got this casino, there's a fight ring. Ian, let me ask you this very important, very relevant question. Have you ever seen such a place of hive of scum and villainy?
Yeah, yeah. Star Trek has tried to do this a few times, and you know, I think it has mixed results.
Mixed results is a great way of putting it, and I would definitely say that mixed results is how I felt about the whole thing. I love Haas. I want to talk all day about Haas Mazzaro. This guy is absolutely brilliant. I mean, even the name is right out of Star Wars. I got to tell you, Haas Mazzaro, come on. And
Agreed. I feel like this guy did come pretty much right out of Star Wars. I,
yeah,
w- I will say that I liked it, generally speaking. I think some of his over reliance on in universe idioms gets a little excessive, but it was also kind of a fun character quirk. So I liked this guy, even though it did feel pretty Star Warsy. Like, he in particular worked for me. The overall vibe of the place, the overall setting was meh.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. For me, Haas Mazzaro, I could have an entire episode with Haas, I think, and I would love to hear more of those idioms that he has. It was just like random like words, and I have to wonder, like the communicators themselves are the universal translators, right? So maybe if they had their comm badges on, then we would have been able to understand what those idioms actually meant. Could be, could be. I don't know, but it's a fun. It was a fun play, and everything from the actor's makeup to his overall like vibe and the energy that he was giving off is kind of like, hey, I'm gonna play both sides against each other. I don't care that they're lovers. I don't care that they're friends or enemies or what have you. He's like, I'm just gonna have fun with this. I am all about.
I completely agree. I thought he was a very believable mercenary type, and but I also believed him when he said like, "Hey, I hope it works out with you two."
Yeah.
I genuinely I liked the character. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a nice little tender moment there. Tarka and Booker and Burnham and Owo are all on the barge together, and they just happen to miss each other in Haz's office. But the mission is pretty much the same. Haz has the isolinium chip contact. Is it a chip? I don't know. It's the isolinium, right? That's the key thing that
yeah. He's
Tarka
actually
needs.
got the stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. That's the key thing that Tarka needs to build the subspace weapon that will disable the DMA.
it's what he
For
needs for the power source. Yeah.
right, right. So that's the crux. Burnham knows that that's what they're after. So let's play a little game. You've got Tarka and Booker who are running off trying to sniff out some rats, some cheaters, right? Running around the casino, playing games, running up the tab, walking away with the jackpots. Haas knows that there's a cheater. So, hey, Booker, Tarka, you guys are smart. This is your job. You want the isolinium? Find me that cheater. Then you have Burnham and Owa who walk in, and they also want the isolinium. Or at the very least, they need to keep it out of Booker's hands. So while they're there, hey, we also need these stellar charts. Boom, it's going to cost some money. It's all the latinum they have. Done. Okay, also the isolinium, you're going to need all the latinum you have and then all the latinum you don't have. And we get this awesome, oh man, Ian, when I tell you that I was like glued, my eyeballs were glued to the screen when O's biceps came on the screen, I was done. Just put me in the ground. I'm good.
Yeah, she was a badass in this episode. Reminiscent of that Voyager episode with The Rock, where you get
Oh yeah.
some cage fighting. Yeah, it was fun to see them hustle these douchebags out of their latinum, and yeah, it like I said, I keep saying all the stuff with Owo worked for me this episode. I don't really have any notes or complaints.
Yeah, same. It worked out really well. The whole fight sequence is great. It's a classic hustle. I will say the only thing I didn't buy out of it was Captain Burnham trying to play hustler. I don't think she played it off very well. Like if I were in that audience, I'd be like, "Yo, come on. Like give me a break." I know.
Yeah, her hustler act in both this and the poker scene were probably the least convincing things she did this week.
The poker scene. Honestly I was cringing a little bit because she was just
It had some
laying it on
problems.
so thick.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a little rough, a little rough.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Haas was picking up on it because he kept like looking over every time she said something like, really? Really? Like, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
Well, sure, he didn't care.
No, because he's going to
He's
win either
like
way.
he's also like I genuinely believe like he's perfectly happy to sit back and watch the two of them hustle these other two randos
Mhm.
to team up and hustle these other two randos out of the game. I'm sure he was absolutely rooting for them to do that.
Oh, for
He
sure.
doesn't care who wins.
Exactly. Exactly. And let's also bring up like those two losers that came in. Little bit of a throwaway line here, but I did have to make a note of it. They're trying to be the next Osira.
Yeah, they're
What did you think of
Orion
that?
goons.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
Meh, it just felt like a little bit of flavor. I don't think it'll have any real consequence. Like, of course, there's a power vacuum that somebody is trying to fill, probably multiple somebodies.
Sure. I don't think those characters will ever see again.
No,
But I The Orion Syndicate, the Emerald Chain, has been mentioned a few times this season. You know, whether we had that Starfleet Academy cadet going through all the struggles of having grown up on Orion and having the green skin and being discriminated against. And now we have this mention of the power vacuum. We got some goons trying to run up. So, is it possible that the Emerald Chain may try to make some kind of a resurgence? Could they possibly become a recurring villain of some type? And if so, again, major fault to the show for getting rid of Osira, because that could have been a compelling return.
Yeah, I'd be surprised, but they have mentioned the Orions are the sort of the only species that was known to have contact with these Sylph
Hmm.
civilization, and so there was there remains the possibility that they will have some role to play in the remaining plot. It did seem a little bit strange that only the Orions were known to have had contact with this species.
Mm,
Like my my Star Trek map is a little rusty in my head. That is in terms of like where these civilizations are, but like I don't really know how that works. I don't know how the Orions of all civilizations are
I
the only
know.
ones to have contact with these folks. Why? But it is what it is. I don't think they're really fleshing it out beyond that.
Sure, sure. I think it's just a, luck of the draw that it was the Orions and maybe not
Yeah,
necessarily playing out, right?
I wish that this, and maybe it was intentional, maybe it will have consequence, but if it wasn't going to have consequence, I wish it had just been a little bit more intentional with their picking which civilization they were going to say had contact with. It's just little details that flesh out the world building in a more in a way that feels authentic. I realize that's a silly word to use potentially in a show that's
Sure.
as fanciful as this, but there's a there's a sense that as fans we watch something, we listen to it, and we say, oh yeah, that tracks.
Yep.
It's something that didn't quite track for me, and so it took me out of the show a little bit.
For sure, for sure. Let's talk about the changeling. We had a changeling here.
We did. Between the Changeling, the Latinum, and the Ferengi, I felt like I'm left wanting even more DS9 connections and references.
Yeah, seriously. All we need is Morin to rock up and tell us one of his great big stories.
We've had Lurians, at least.
Exactly. I thought it was really cool. I thought the VFX work to showcase the changeling shifting form was really good. It felt true to what Odo would have done, but it also felt like a visual update.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the morphing into a dribble was a fun choice.
Yes.
It did remind me of all the times Odo, like turned himself into a bird to fly away from the situation, which
Mm,
to me might have made a little bit more sense if you're trying to literally like take flight and get the hell out of someplace. But
yeah, right.
whatever. The changeling gets caught by Tarka's gadget, and yeah, it's cool to see um, what if any role the changelings have to play in this far future Star Trek world. I don't necessarily think this was a sign of greater things to come, but it did make me wonder, like, oh yeah, what are they up to?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, like any species post burn, I'm sure that whoever got trapped out there, is just out there and had to fend for themselves in some way, shape, or form. So I would love
Yeah,
to.
we don't know the status of the Celestial Temple at this point in Star Trek. Like, who knows what sort of relationship the changelings have with the rest of the galaxy at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it worked out really well, and this part of the story is when, of course, Booker, Tarka, and Burnham and Owosekun, charge into Hazmazaro's office and saying like, "Hey, we both got it at exactly the same time," and that's what leads them to this draw, right? And that leads to the poker game. Another cool reference we get Haz. He grabs the latinum and he says, "Anyone who acts like an Armis will be dropped in the ocean." Did you catch that? It was only in the subtitles.
Yeah, actually, it's the second time he says "Don't act like an armist" to someone in the show. It's a great little dig. I love the idea that someone else stumbled on, maybe a lot of others have stumbled on Armis's shitty little shitty little timeout planet and having encountered that asshole.
Ugh,
And
what an ass.
I love that the notion that his name has just become a synonym for asshole.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Just a great reference, and it shows that, hey, these writers, like, they're dropping in this stuff, like a casual fan just watching, someone who came to Star Trek Discovery maybe recently, it's their first show, it's their first entry into the Star Trek world, they would miss that and they would just kind of like be like, oh, okay, I don't really know what that means, but it sounds like something. Maybe they'll learn about it. Maybe they'll learn about it through our podcast and they'll go back and they'll watch season 1, Skin of Evil, and they will learn why Armis is the way Armis is.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe Armis can get a little spin-off show.
Another spin-off, Star Trek Armis. Maybe Denise Crosby can come back for it.
There you go.
Woo! All right, so Burnham loses the poker game. She always knew she would, but she's smart. She's clever. She's adept and creative, just like Admiral Vance told her, right? So the poker game, it gets set up. They're playing for the Isolinium. Burnham very correctly says, hey, well, we need to inspect the goods. So as she goes in to inspect the goods, to check out the Isolinium, make sure it's real, make sure it's legit, she plants a tracker on it. So ultimately, when Booker wins the poker match and leaves with the Isolinium, they can still track Booker to wherever that Isolinium is going. So it's not a total loss.
It isn't. I thought that was clever, to kind of go back to the poker scene a little bit. I think one of the things that I was left wanting that I didn't really get out of the scene, although I felt like once it was just down to Burnham and Book, I thought that they performed the scene well. Like I again reference what I referenced earlier to they're cashing in the sort of check that they've written with the last year and a half of good, solid character development between the two of them. Their
Yeah.
relationship feels authentic. So when it's threatened, we the audience are compelled by that. I just felt like what I was left wanting was for this scene to be more about her really trying to actually convince him, like talk to him on a one-to-one level, not just ask him once and just sort of have it come down to this pushing in all the chips on the table. Like, okay, fine, if you want to have that be the final moment that you can call the episode All In, that's fine. It works as a dramatic button to that sequence, but it felt like, we've seen all these other episodes where Burnham, debates a point. We had that unification part 3,
Yeah.
Burnham is someone who we have seen in the show. One of her skills is presented to us as being like her ability to talk someone around to her point of view, or at least make the effort. We see her trying to talk people to see things her way all the time. It felt like, if she was ever going to open up and really like pull out all the stops and really try to convince him of her case, it felt like this was the time, and we didn't really get that.
Yeah. To echo that, it really felt like she barely tried.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah. It felt
Yeah.
like a very superficial effort. And I get you could probably explain away some of that with, well, she was planning to put the tracker on the thing. She didn't really expect Book to say no. But like, we're not really given anything to, like, she doesn't seem to believe when she arrives. She doesn't give us any indication when she arrives that she doesn't believe she can talk him out of this. Like she says, like, I had to try, but like, you know, I get that she doesn't think she can win this game, but it feels like she doesn't think she can win the argument either. And I'm confused by that.
I am too. I'm of two minds of this, and I don't know which way the show. Obviously, I don't know which way the show is going to go with it, but it definitely feels as though Michael went into that poker game fully expecting to lose, and maybe hoping that her being there would convince Book to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm off kilter here. Maybe I'm making the wrong decision. Michael's here. Let me go back with her and talk it out. Maybe we can come to some kind of agreement, But Booker is he's not exactly he's not from Starfleet, right? He's not from the Federation. He's had to live a hard life. He's had to do very hard things, make sacrifices after sacrifice, loses his planet, and he's tired of running. So he's all in, right? He's all in on his path. So I don't know that this is necessarily like the ultimatum in terms of their relationship. I think that this is where the second mind comes in. I think that there's a potential there that maybe Michael really thinks, okay, not this time, but the next time I see him, we can cool these jets. We can make this slow down a little bit and talk this out, and maybe Booker will come to reason, And it could be that it really is the ultimatum, and if so, I would agree with you. I felt like it was a little weak on that part of the story to just leave the poker game and say, "Oh, okay, I stared at you dreamily and I, tried to convince you because of our past relationship and how we know each other and our love for each other and our romance, but, here you are going off on this mission."
Yeah.
It's a
And
tough
she
one.
doesn't have to, yeah. And even in the, the poker of it all itself, like she doesn't have to call that bet. She can just keep folding and just keep talking to him.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
she doesn't have to call. He can push his chips all in all he wants. She does not have to. I mean, eventually she'll run out of chips, but she could have played for time. She could have dragged this out a little bit
Mhm.
more. Like all of these things that would have bought them a little bit more time. Maybe give her some more time to convince Book of her point of view. Like it was a little bit confusing as to what her goal was. Even though I did like the end reveal of all of that being like, well, it wasn't a total loss because I placed this tracking device on that, which was established that the Federation was doing to track the dilithium shipments earlier in the season.
Yeah, yeah. So then we have this final scene of the episode, where we learn what is actually up with species 10C. Do we think, Ian, that it's real? Do we think that it is a legit civilization with a mining equipment, and that's what the DMA is?
I like this explanation. I think it makes sense. I think also if I'm just kind of looking, if I'm kind of thinking in a meta sense, I'm looking at how many episodes we have left in the season. It feels like we're reaching the point in the season where we should be arriving at a final answer in terms of
Mm,
what this thing is, or at least we're narrowing down the possibilities of what this thing is. And so far, it fits. Like it fits the reason that they jump to the conclusion that they do is because it does fit with the information that they've been able to gather so far. Like I like that
mhm.
there's a civilization who is just using this super advanced mining equipment to seek out a particular very specific resource. I like the way that Burnham kind of arrived at that as a possibility. Her suggesting that Zora check the data of the DMA
Mm,
appearances, attacks, whatever you want to call it, and analyze the remaining, you know, the remaining atoms
whatever's
in the
left.
area,
Yeah,
whatever's left
yeah.
for anything that should be there that isn't anymore. And they see that sure enough, this substance boronite, something which is used in the synthesis of omega particles, is missing.
Mm.
So it fits the information. There's a very specific, very finite, very, very powerful resource that is no longer in any of the locations where the DMA has appeared and done its catastrophic thing. So that fits the idea that this is some sort of resource harvesting mechanism. What I'm eager to learn is how aware of these sort of relatively lesser
Yeah.
civilizations this hyper advanced civilization is.
Yeah. Like, do they care?
Do they know? Do they care? Yeah, these
Is
are
it,
interesting questions. And
is it,
what can we do in the
right?
face of such awesome power?
Is this much like us sitting up here in North America screaming about, the Amazon rainforest being burned, acre after acre, like
Sure.
they don't care down there, but we know that it's a serious problem, but they just don't care. So is it something like that? Is it something, where it's truly a sinister thing, or do we even register as a blip on their
No,
radar?
we are. I mean, the analogy isn't even, you know, forget the rainforest. Like, think literally of mining. Like, it's literally like the equivalent of blowing the top off a mountain,
Yeah.
and whatever happened to be there before, who gives a shit? Who
Nobody
gives a
cares.
shit?
Yeah,
Who
legit,
fucking cares?
legit.
That's what it is. They're just blowing shit up and extracting the resources that they need, and whatever's left, who gives a shit?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We get this conclusion by Stamets basically showing us through the hollow emitters that there is a large blob out in space, and that's where species 10C is. The sheer volume, the mass, the size of this object, Stamets says, is 228 million kilometers in radius, which Admiral Vance then says is large enough to contain a host star and maybe 2 or 3 orbiting bodies.
Yeah.
So my first thought was a Dyson sphere, but
Well, this is like a hyper Dyson sphere. This is
yes,
way more expansive.
yes. And Stamets says that he calls it a hyperfield, and it's acting as a Faraday cage. And I had to look it up. I've heard of Faraday cage, but a Faraday cage is an enclosure used to block electromagnetic fields. It may be formed by continuous covering of conductive material or a mesh of hybrid materials to block out electromagnetic fields. So interesting stuff. What's your theories on species 10C? Do you think that they are truly a species of some sort, or are they some type of Q-like entity, or something completely unimaginable?
I'm really curious. It's the kind of thing where they're running the risk, as they always do with these sorts of plots, of the final end reveal
Mm,
not being, as satisfying as anything we're all imagining and hypothesizing. I really don't know. I do think it's a real thing. I believe them when they say that, like, the Q doesn't have anything to do with it. Like, I think it's a new species,
hmm
and or one that has some sort of connection to something that's happened in elsewhere in the lore. Like, Tarka is not revealing everything he has to reveal yet.
Correct.
So we know that time travel plays some role. Maybe this is not another species, but a species that we're familiar with, but there's some time stuff going on. Like,
Mm,
I'm open to all sorts of possibilities. I like I said at the beginning, like, I continue to be invested in this particular mystery a lot more than I was last seasons. So,
mm,
I'm not really complaining. I'm here for the ride. I wouldn't mind if they. I felt like this scene played out a little bit quickly. Them getting to the bar night, them getting to the sort of solution. Like, I would have liked showing us a little bit more of the discovery and problem solving along the way to get to this point. Like, some scene in between that scene with uh, Stamets looking at the data and Stamets saying, "Hey, here's what I found out." Like I would have liked maybe some additional in between there. Like I know he got the scene with Culber in between there, but just something
Right.
else where maybe not even Stamets specifically, just some additional scene of them working this problem, because I'm here for it. I like this. I like this mystery.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there needed to have been a scene with, maybe Stamets and Saru where they worked through what actually the DMA was doing, and that could have led to, a wonderful cliffhanger moment for that scene where maybe they come to the realization of what the DMA actually is, and then we have the ending of that episode where we have that reveal, or they could have held on to that reveal, for the start of the next episode or something to that effect. But yeah, I agree with you that the ending scene did feel quite rushed in terms of like, hey, here's all this plot exposition, here's all the answers, we're going to tell you what they are, never mind how we arrived to these conclusions, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I gotta say, like I said earlier, tonally a little bit all over the place. Did
yep.
certainly feel like some things were missing. It felt like the stakes were really high, but then they weren't. But then, we had some time to go hustle some cage fighters, and like our listener dropped into our Instagram messages said, it felt very contrived, this forced moment between Michael and Booker where someone's going to have to make a decision, and I'm not looking forward to that either.
Yeah, I think that this kind of conflict had to take place at some point. I buy the setup as much as anything else. I
Sure.
mean, it, them having a mutual contact that they both check in on for unrelated reasons, but maybe sort of each of them kind of hope that they're going to run into the other. Like that makes as much, if not more, sense than plenty of other ways they could have run into each other again.
Oh, for sure.
Um, so
Space is vast.
that being said, like yeah, tonally this episode was a bit all over the place. Like poker scene didn't really work.
Mm,
I think that they're they wanted to have this sort of tension and excitement of a poker scene, but I think a lot of the business of it not being straightforward poker, even though that's clearly the game they were actually
right.
playing, made it a little bit confusing at first. Like, is this actual poker? Are these poker rules? What are these cards? Are they recognizable? And then by the end, you're like, okay, so they just changed up the suits and the face cards and whatever. Like, this is just poker.
Yep.
But because there was that sort of question in my mind, especially earlier in the scene, like it took a little while to get into the game, and once you get into it, like I don't really care. It all just felt like it was made up. It all just feels like make believe. Like Star Trek does have sometimes a problem with the games that they put in, that they kind of invent for the show,
Right.
and are most successful when it's something that's grounded, that the audience recognizes, like when the crew of Next Gen like play actual legit just poker,
Yeah.
and then there's no mystery about what's going on, and the audience can just focus on the characters and getting invested in the characters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see like, we'll ever see characters, sit down to, play a PlayStation game for a change. But something to that effect of like, hey, let's switch it up and make it not just a, a reskinned version of a card game.
Yeah, it wasn't a strength of the
Yep.
episode.
And that's all right. That's all right. Is there anything in this episode that we missed talking about?
I don't think so. We've been chatting about it for a while.
Yeah, at least an hour. An
Yeah,
hour and 15 at this point.
yeah.
Ian, this was great. I'm so happy that Star Trek Discovery is back. You and
Me too.
I are back in the saddle. We're chatting about it. Tell me, Ian, what do you have going on in your life? Where can we find you and listen to you on the internets?
Well, you can hear me here on We Are Starfleet almost every week, just about, except when we're taking time off, which we hopefully won't be doing for a little while yet. And I'm over on The Way, our Star Wars discussion and recap podcast. We are closing the book of Boba Fett now, and after we do a couple more episodes to kind of recap and maybe cover one or two other fun things, we're going to be taking a break for a while. And you can also hear me pop up on Movieversaries. I just did a podcast about Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru with Bo Nicholson over there, and pop up on Academy Watch and some other movie podcasts at some point too.
Very good. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, you too, man.
My name is Mike Slamer, and I hope you have all enjoyed this episode of We Are Starfleet. We are a podcast on the We Made This network of podcasts. If you'd like to support me directly or Ian directly, and you would like to buy either one of us a coffee, you can find that link in the show description. And listen, hosting a podcast is more than just being our own editorial team and sound engineer. It's also doing PR, marketing, reaching out for special guests, and of course, actually sitting down and recording this content. So if you like what you heard here and you've been enjoying the show, you want to encourage us to do more, please consider joining our Patreon at patreon.com/WeMadeThis. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. You can support us by dropping a 5-star rating on your podcasting platform, which is one of the best ways for us not only to get those endorphins going, because it shows us that you like us, we're doing a good job, but also it helps the algorithm, because you're telling the algorithm that, hey, you should listen to this show. So then the algorithm will tell other people who like Star Trek or science fiction related content to listen to the show. And in the meantime, you can always drop us an email at wearestarfleetwmtr@gmail.com. You can slide into our Twitter and Instagram DMs and tell us what you thought of the show. Just do it. Just do it. You don't have to ask. Just pop on over and do that. You can find us at Starfleet Pod on Twitter and Instagram for updates, show releases. You can chat Trek. Maybe tell us what you'd like to hear an episode about, or maybe you'd like to be a guest. Folks, thank you again. This has been We Are Starfleet. Ian, thank you for the show. Thank you to the We Made This Podcast Network over at WeMadeThisNetwork.com. Thanks all, and until next time, live long and prosper.
Elsewhere on We Made This.
The Way, a Star Wars podcast.
Well, trying to have him be like a stoic kind of unflinching character. In the end, he just seems like he doesn't care or want anything.
Yeah, it goes back to what we've said in past episodes, where they just feel too indifferent to their own stories.
Yeah.
For us to, I can't care for them.
Yeah.
I can't invest in a story more than the goddamn characters on the screen seem invested in the story, so give me something, guys.
Gotham University, a Batman podcast.
But you don't owe this planet a thing. And I thought that was a perfect speech to give a man who is so conflicted with his duality, between being an alien from another race that could wipe out the entire planet, or be a man who just wants to live.
Exactly. Christopher Reeve was very much truth, justice, the American way. But Henry Cavill is much more about it's less the American way and much more about truth and much more about justice, which is more important than just the American way. Because the American way, back in the 60s and the 70s, that was then, but this is now. And we need a Superman for us.
Frame to frame.
So we mentioned it won an Academy Award for Best Makeup. It's the only Oscar won by a film that's been directed by David Cronenberg to date.
Pretty staggering.
I mean
that's amazing.
It's astounding. But
I mean, let me put it this way: Gwyneth Paltrow has as many Oscars as David Cronenberg. That's just wrong, in every sense of the word.
Yeah, but you can't get a candle that smells like David Cronenberg. No, wait, I'm not going to go there.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.